What's up, Victoria? It's Victoria, and today we're going to look back on my favorites of 2023. This was a video I meant to do in December, but December really got away from me. We're going to go through everything that I talked about and mentioned as a favorite in 2023. I will link that video down below, and I will try to remember to link it up in the cards because I forget to do that all the time. I did a best of 2024 video, and at the beginning of that video, I mentioned that I had done like an hour-and-a-half long video about my favorites, and I wanted to keep my favorites video brief, and that video ended up being an hour long. But it was an hour long because I did like favorites and fails, and the favorites portion of that video was actually much shorter. So I only mentioned 5 favorites at the end of 2024. The end of 2023, I swear to God, I must have done every product I tried and liked ended up in my favorites video. So what I want to do with you in this video is retouch on the topics. I'm not going to swatch anything. If you really want to see swatches of stuff, actually go watch the one of the best of 2023 video. I don't feel like reswatching everything here today. And I want to kind of make this video move a little bit quicker. So it's not going to be like reviews of everything. It's going to be really getting down to whether or not something is still my favorite. I'm going to go in the order that I went in the favorites video for 2023. So the first thing I talked about was primers, and I mentioned the Victoria Beckham Cell Rejuvenating Primer. If I still have it, I'll hold it up in frame. This is not the same bottle that I was holding up in 2023. This is actually 2 bottles later. This is absolutely still a favorite of mine. It is my favorite primer that I've ever used. I like it. It is very expensive, but it's my favorite thing. And something I really want to focus on moving forward when I'm talking about my makeup, the makeup that I'm buying for me to use when I'm not testing makeup for review. I want it to really absolutely be my favorite thing. And if I only had to have one primer, it would actually be this. I feel like I was really being honest when I was mentioning this, because obviously if it's 2 bottles later and now I have the jumbo size of it, I think I can really say that this was a favorite of mine, and it's truly a favorite. The Cimarron Dewdrop concealer was mentioned in that video, and it's actually the concealer I have under my eyes today. This is in the shade 2. It really was my favorite concealer for like most of the year. And I'm not really someone who like jumps from concealer to concealer and calls it my favorite, but there was a concealer that came out this year that really swept the floor with all other concealers, and it was the Victoria Beckham concealer, which is another expensive product. For a majority of the year before the Victoria Beckham concealer came out, this would have still been considered my favorite concealer. I still think it's a very good concealer. In fact, most of it is used up. I'm almost done with it. And so basically what I've done to try to use up this concealer is I've hid away all of my other concealers, and I'm really focusing on this one to use it up. Here's the thing, now that I've been focusing on it and using it, I've been really enjoying it again. I know why I love it. It's still a very, very good concealer, but the Victoria Beckham one came into my life and it just happens to be better. I will say it's also marginally better. Like, it is better. It is my favorite concealer, the Victoria Beckham one. But if I had never tried that, I would have been perfectly happy continuing to use this. If I was a normal person who wasn't buying things to review on the internet, which is what the purchase of the Victoria Beckham concealer was for, I would never have known that it was better. So you don't need to be chasing perfection when it comes to your makeup. If you have makeup that you really like and you're not looking for a solution to a concern that has come up, then keep using it, because I would have been just as happy using it, because I'm happy using it now. I'm happy using it up. I'm having a good time using it up. All of the good feelings I have about it are still there. I mean, I don't love the applicator. It's one of those sponge tip applicators and it's like incredibly messy. That's like my one complaint about it. I still really like it. It needs to have more shades. I mean, like, there's other complaints I have about it. I don't like the packaging, but you know. The next item is actually the first item that I'm actually confused that I mentioned as a favorite. I talked about 2 contour products. I still have both of them, but the first one I talk about is the Victoria Beckham Contour Stilo, which I do really like. It is a very good product. The color is actually the holdup here, but I like everything else about it. I like that it's a pen. I like how easy it is to draw on my face. I like how easy it is to blend out. Whenever I use it, I always contour my nose. I don't contour my nose if I'm not using it, because it's just like, and I'm not really that concerned about contouring my nose. It's just like a step I'll add if I am using this product. But because of how warm this contour product is, I only use it whenever I'm doing warmer looks. It would work for cooler tone looks, but I have a contour that works better for my skin tone. So I don't know why I mentioned this as a favorite. I think it just really harkened back to early makeup times for me whenever I was using the Burberry contour wand thing that they used to make that was essentially just like this product. I would say it's not a favorite. It's still a really lovely product. I think it's really good. I just wish they had better colors for me. But I also talked about Ritual Defee's Inner Glow Cream Pigment in the shade Intuition. Here's the journey that this product has been on. It was in its original compact, and then that compact broke, so I repotted it and I was using it inside of the Victoria Beckham bronzing brick packaging. And then I've kind of had this like repotting, repanning, depotting, depanning revolution that I've been going through. And so I wanted it to be in a square pan and not in that long angular pan. And this was in a heart-shaped pan that you guys asked about once. And I don't remember where I got those heart-shaped pans. I think it was TKB Trading, but I was recently on their website and I didn't see heart-shaped pans. Anyway, it's in this pan now. This is that same contour, but that's how much I have left. The reason that there's so little of it left is because I use it every time I do my makeup. Now, I don't do my makeup every day. I probably would go through it faster if I did my makeup every day or most days. I do contour every time I do my makeup, and I like my contour to be really blended out. So a lot of times, like whenever I was out not that long ago, I was telling someone that I contoured my face and they were like, doesn't even look like you like have contour on. And I was like, and that's what I want. And because of the color of this, it's the perfect contour. It blends right into my skin and it's very, very seamless. I still have loved this. This is still my ultimate contour product. It's still a favorite. It's still something I get a lot of joy using. Contour is not the most exciting step of my makeup, but it is exciting to have a contour that works really well for me. Moving right along to more cheek products, I talked about the Gucci bronzer in the shade 1. This was gifted to me by Nicole. This bronzer, it's the bronzer I have on today. I actually wasn't doing my face of makeup in relation to stuff that I talked about in that video, but some of it I actually organically reached for today. I would say that this is my favorite bronzer I've ever used. I don't think I said that in that video, but I was just really surprised by this. This formula is really lovely. The color of it is really lovely. I really enjoy this product so much. It's so great for the winter months. I do warm it up a little bit more, go something a little bit darker in the summer months whenever I want to have a little bit more color to me. Honestly, I still use this throughout the summer as well. That does have that scent, but I have like actually a pretty good dip going in it. And I feel like I've never really had a super good dip going in any bronzer. Like this is the bronzer when I think of bronzers. That's the bronzer I'm going to pull out. Still loving that. Still a very big favorite of mine. I talked about so many blushes in that video. I still have most of them. I'm going to start with the ones that like I don't think would be a surprise to you to hear that they were my favorite. So the Chanel Beige Mauve blush. I've been on a depotting journey. This is something that has been depotted. Still really love this. I still consider this to be one of my favorite blushes. If I did a top 5 of 2023, I think this would have been in the top 5 of 2023. Kind of just like the Gucci bronzer. It just maintained its status in my brain. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I think I'm almost through the beige part of it. And I would say that that's probably the most I've used any powder blush. Like that's a pretty good dip going for me in a powder blush. The thing about blushes, I have many colors of them, so I like jump around from blush to blush. To have that much momentum on it and being a powder is really speaks to it. Another one that I would say that it truly is a favorite of mine still is the Pillow Talk Charlotte Tilbury Matte Pillow Talk blush wand. This blush shade, I pull this out all the time as well. It's this beautiful dead gray pink color. It's a little bit deeper than you expect. It's actually mauve, like it's a beautiful mauve color. I don't think it would work on really, really deep skin tones because there is that gray aspect to it, but I think that's what makes it special. If all of Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk shades were this shade of Pillow Talk, then I would be like, wow, Pillow Talk is a really great shade and I really quite love it. I think the reality of the situation is that this is the only real Pillow Talk shade that is this shade, and it's a really great one. And this formula is so good. Once you blend it out, it stays all day. It's gorgeous. It's a really agreeable liquid formula. Liquid formulas of blush can be pretty scary. You like kind of never know what you're gonna get. You never know how it's gonna perform. And I feel like I get the same results every time I use this. I've gone overboard a handful of times with it, but it's pretty easy to like fix that once you do it. Just like add a little foundation over top of it and reels it right on in. And I think another one that I think is like truly still a fave that I still think of very fondly, but it's like the least exciting one to me, and I don't know why. It's the shade Condensate from Phytosurgence. Now, I'm again on a depotting journey, so I actually have this in a pan that I have in a magnetic compact, but I didn't do all of it because I was concerned that maybe the air tightness, I was wondering if that was something you needed. Someone did leave me a comment that they had to rehome theirs into a pan and it didn't affect the efficacy of the product. But the thing about this is it's like that grayish color, and as someone who has like almost translucent skin, like I need blush shades that are really don't pack a lot of a punch. And if there's like any orange, red, or yellow in a product, if I put that on my face, it's going to read more that color than the other color, even if it was something meant to be cool toned. My skin really likes to pull out the warmth of that kind of thing. Condensate's perfect. It actually just reads as like a really beautiful pink blush on me, but it's not like too pink. It's like this, it's really beautiful. And then I would say the next couple, I know how one of them ended up in my faves, but I don't know how two of them ended up in my faves. One fave that is still a fave, but I'm reworking my whole makeup situation to love my collection more and have it more accessible to me. So I've depotted all of my blushes so that they can be in a palette and so I can see them all together. I don't know, I just need to visualize things like that. And Barba Papa was a favorite of mine in 2023. And I don't think it was a lie for me in 2023 to say to you that it is a favorite. Actually, I have it on my cheek today because, again, I've been like trying to rework my whole life in makeup to make sure that I'm like loving everything. I still love Barba Papa. I don't wear it all the time like I was in 2023, but today I put it on and I was like, Barba Papa is still that girl. She is still that girl. I still love her. And actually, you already have seen this video. It's in my everyday makeup drawer. I have a little smaller blush palette that I'm working out of the everyday makeup drawer, and it's in that. And I actually just like opened up everything in my everyday makeup drawer when I was sitting down to do my makeup today. And Barba Papa really spoke to me, and I was already planning on doing some purples. I still love her, but she was not that loved in 2024. And then the last two, I would say, like, I'm not sure why. I do like the formula of the Surratt Artistique liquid blushes, but I would say even in the year 2023, I wasn't using them as much as I was like kind of exclaiming to in that video. Like, I like the formula, but they are also something that I forget to use all the time. It's like not a thing that I don't like the product. Every time I use it, I really do enjoy it, but it's like I don't use it that much. So I don't even know how it ended up in my favorites. I feel like I was really inflating how much I liked it in that video. Time goes on, I learn things. I learn how I want to talk to you about product. If I'm going to do a favorites video, I really want it to be favorites. And I just feel like that wasn't entirely correct for me to put the Artistique liquid blushes in my end of the year favorites, because I didn't really use them that much this year. I have one of them in my everyday makeup drawer right now, so I'm hoping to like reconnect with them. But I would say that not a super favorite, but not because I don't like it. It's just I forget that they're there because it's a liquid. It can't go in my little magnetic palette. It's not a cream. It's not a powder. I can't do that with that. And then finally, Chanel's Ombre Blush. This was gifted to me by my friend Ananda, and I put this in my favorites video. One, I think I had just gotten this blush whenever I put it in my favorites video, which is not like me to do anymore. I'm a little more discerning about like what I consider a favorite. Like, there are things that I can like right away when I first get them. Beauty fades. So yeah, I don't use this blush that often, but since I've like rearranged all my blushes and depotted them, I have used it more than I ever have because I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to get to know that better. Although a blush has recently come into my life that I think is a similar idea, but more a tone that I like. I hope to still use this more. I just think that this pulls a little warm on me. It's one of the cases of like, it has a little bit of orange in it, and my skin really takes that orange and is like, this is a warm beige, as opposed to the other blush I'm thinking of is a more cool taupey beige. I still like this product. It was weird that it was in my favorites, so I don't think that that rings true. For highlighter, I put the Surratt Torch Lumiere, and I still really love this. I use this a lot of this year. It's one of those unsung heroes, I feel like, in my collection. Like, I really love it. And I know that Hannah-Lee's posted, I was actually just watching her video as I was getting ready. She like also really loves it. It's a really great product. It's so good, but it's like an unsung hero. Like, I pull it out and I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. And it actually, if you watched it, this was in my favorite makeup products of all time. Like, it's my favorite highlighter at this time, or at that time when I did that video, is the Torch Lumiere. This is the shade Diamante. It's just so good. It's one of those cream highlighters that sets down. It dries, and so your hair doesn't get stuck in it. Like, product, you know, things don't get stuck in it. Like, little facial hair doesn't get stuck in it. It's just so gorgeous. I love tapping your skin. It is really wet looking and ethereal looking, but it's from Surratt. It doesn't seem to be aligned with like what a lot of Surratt does. So it's like a very interesting product. I really like the packaging of it. It's a lovely time. I'm still a big fan of that. I feel like a couple of highlighters have come into my life recently where I've been using a lot more, like the Hindash highlighters, and I'm still trying to really suss out like the Gucci highlighters. I have one of the Gucci highlighters on my face today, and I do quite like it. Then I talked about eyeshadows, and I put a bunch of single eyeshadows in, which makes sense because like that was at the point where I was like, this is how I like to do my makeup now. I did talk about one palette, and it was the Hindash Monochromance palette. I still use this palette a lot. It is the palette that I like to take on trips with me whenever I go because I can use it for everything. I can use it for blush, bronzer, contour, powder. Like, I can do everything I ever would need to do with it. Still an amazing product. Still love it. It still really aligns with the way I do my makeup. Not a surprise to have seen it watching it back this year. I also talked about the Victoria Beckham cream shadow sticks. For the first half of the year, I feel like I was using them a lot. And then Merit sent me PR and I got to retry the Solo shadows. I got more skin tone like shades to try this time, and I liked them a lot more in the skin tone shades. So I was using that for a while, but a couple months ago, I pulled these out again in a video where I was like forgotten makeup. I still love them. I definitely use them less the second half of the year, but they're still a thing that I really, really like and are a valuable tool in my collection, especially with the way I was starting to love to do my eyeshadow toward the ends of last year and the way that I mostly have done my eyeshadow this year, where it's just kind of like a couple of mattes and then a really simple sparkle on the eye, kind of like what I have going on now. I didn't use these today, but very similar to what I have going on my eyes today. Like, that's how I do my makeup now. And then also something still very much my thing is Victoria Beckham's Mink. I mean, It's still my favorite eyeshadow. It's still my favorite makeup. If I had to pick out 5 pieces of makeup that were my favorite makeup, whether or not they are the thing I use the most, mink is my favorite makeup. Mink is favorite makeup. And I think it's such a beautiful color. It's a beautiful texture. It's a beautiful little component with the tortoiseshell. Everything about it is my favorite thing. And it's still my favorite thing. And I think in my favorite makeup of all time video, it's my favorite eyeshadow. That maintains. Then I talk about some Phytosurgeon's eyeshadows. I talked about Lunar Lightwave and Fractal Freesia, and I would say that those 2 eyeshadows are so good. Every time I put them on my eyes, if I use them as a topper, people will ask what the eyeshadow is, and I'm like, oh, it's layers of eyeshadow. And like when these are on top, oh baby, all bets off. It's like they amplify any look. By themselves, they're beautiful, sparkly, wet looking eyeshadows. That's like my favorite kind of eyeshadow. I love a sheer base wash of sparkle. Like that needs to really do it. Beautiful thing about these is that the sparkle is really like spread out. And so like it allows the light to catch. And even though I feel like in a swatch, they look less sparkly than something I would consider to be super sparkly. On the eyes, because of like the roundness of the eyes and how the product disperses on your eyes, it looks so much more sparkly than any sparkly thing. It's so great. I love these 2. Fractal Freesia I purchased, and Lunar Lightwave was sent to me by the brand. They also sent me Crystal Constellation, which I wish I loved more. Like when I say I wish I loved more, I'm wishing I used it more. It's this beautiful brown. I like the more sparkly Phytosurgeon's eyeshadows as opposed to the ones that are more eyeshadows as opposed to like, so I really do like it. I still think it's a pretty shade. I don't think even at the time that this should have been like considered a favorite, but these 2 definitely are favorites. I still wear them all the time. I also talked about this Shine by SD shade. It's the shade Ice Blink that Seeking Shifts did. It is a fragile eyeshadow in general, but it mostly held as it fell out. So I'm just going to re-press it. Ice Blink was an absolute favorite in 2023, and it deserved its spot in 2023. I've worn it a lot less this year. I feel like I've had a lot more eyeshadow to try this year as well. It is in my drawer. I put it in this little Glaminatrix compact. It doesn't matter. It's like I tried really hard not to get sparkle all over myself, and yet I still really like Ice Blink. I still think it's a very special sparkly shade. I just use it a lot less this year than I did last year. It's still a favorite of mine. It's still one of the few single shadows I have floating around in my collection that I like know the name. Even though it's not something that came in a compact like this, I still know the shade. I know that it exists in my collection. It's a shade that if I'm doing a look and I know I want to use it, like it comes to the top of my head. But I also have a lot of single shadows floating around in my collection that I don't know the name of or where it came from. I talked about a couple shades from Chantecaille. I talked about the shade Zebra, which I decluttered because it wasn't my favorite of them. And I also talked about Pangolin, which I have on my eyes today. And it's so funny that I'm talking about Pangolin in that video. I feel like my relationship with Pangolin is the one I have like a least association with of my Chantecaille eyeshadows. I use Elephant and Rhino all the time. They're like some of my favorite eyeshadows in my collection. But I have Pangolin on my eyes today, and I have it in my everyday makeup drawer. And when I was pulling out makeup, I wanted to do something like lilac-y, purpley. I wanted to use the lilac highlighter from Gucci, and I wanted to use Barba Papa, and so it made sense to put this in my look today. So it is really pretty. I still don't think that Pangolin is as special as Rhino and Elephant. And I still think that those are the 2 that if you were interested in the Chantecaille eyeshadows and those were the shades you were interested in, or one of those shades was one of the ones you were interested in, I think that would be the one to get to start with, in my opinion. I also have Elephant, which was so funny. I was watching a clip of something of me today, and I was like, what is on my eyes? I'd like go find that video and see what I had linked, and it was Elephant, which is super gorgeous. It was Elephant topped with Fractal Freesia, actually. Beautiful combo. I still love Elephant. I do love Rhino the most if I had to rank my Chantecaille eyeshadows. Elephant is still a big favorite of mine and still maintains its status in my mind as like, wow, that's a very special thing that I own. Next for eyes, I have the Victoria Beckham eyeliners. They're the only eyeliners I really use. I only have one other formula of eyeliner, and it's from Kulfi, which is an excellent eyeliner. It's just the color I don't use a lot of. It's Tiger Queen. It's this like terracotta orange. But these were my first 2. This is Ash and Cocoa, and they're like getting pretty small. I know people who use eyeliner every day can go through eyeliner pretty quickly, but for me to be like about halfway done with them, that's an impressive use of product for me, especially like something like an eyeliner, because I don't sharpen my eyeliner every time I use them, because I don't like a really sharp eyeliner because I mostly am using it in my waterline, or if I'm using it on my eyelid, I'm doing something really smudgy. It doesn't need to be precise. Still love it. It's my favorite formula of eyeliner, so I agree with my former self. And then for lips, I did talk about this lip liner, Endless Cacao from Makeup Forever. Still a very strong contender for my favorite lip liner. I feel like I'm not really super specific about lip liner, but this is my favorite color for now. There is another lip liner in my life that I'm having quite the love affair with that I can't wait to share with you. It's a great lip liner. It's just the color of it. It's so good. But I really love this. It's still a favorite of mine. I still wear this with most of my brown lipsticks. Actually, I think I do have this on today, but I have a lipstick and a lip gloss on top of it, but still very much like it. And I'm actually so surprised that the next product made my favorites, and it's the Cherry Pick Lip Color Butter in Nashi Pear. It's a warm neutral, what does any word mean? It is really pretty, and I do like the formula. I've always complained about the color selection that they have. I understand that About Face is like a bright color kind of brand. I just wish they had a couple of nudes in this. And there is one that every time I say it, it's something, everyone always recommends it, but that also looks warm to me, and I would like something a little more down the middle. But I do really like this formula. I just don't use this product that often. Maybe I was doing more looks with it around the time that I did my favorites of 2023, but I thought that was a very interesting one for me to have thrown in there. Those are all the products that I still have. So there were some things that I decluttered since my favorites of 2023 video, and I'll tell you what happened to each product. I mentioned the Phytosurgeon's bronzer, and I still had that up till halfway through the year. Actually, when I was doing my mid-year declutter, which I'm probably not going to do a mid-year declutter this year because I feel like my collection's pretty honed in, and I'll just save it for the end of the year if I want to declutter anything. There's actually something I've been using recently that I'm pretty sure I want to declutter. Maybe declutters can be more organic, but I really kind of love doing a check-in at the end of the year and really doing that. So I'll probably just save it for the end of the year. It's also a product that I wouldn't be comfortable passing along right now, so I'll just hold it, see if I use it at all for the rest of the year. Anyway, so I was doing a mid-year declutter, and I've seen this happen to some other people. I went to swatch the Phytosurgeon's bronzer and it cracked. And when I was talking about my bronzers, I was feeling like I wanted to declutter one, but I was still enjoying all of them at the time. And so I was like, oh, I don't really feel like decluttering any of these, but like, I feel like I should get rid of one because I feel like I have too many. It broke and I was like, yeah, I'll just get rid of that one. And I don't think that would have been a big deal. I think if I would have went ahead and used it a couple more times, that it would have been fine. But I was just like, I had made my peace with it. I was moving on. While I wouldn't mind having it back in my collection, I'm okay, but I also have heard from some people they're frustrated with the bronzer from Phytosurgeons. They can't make it work for them. I see it from both sides. I really enjoyed the bronzer when I had it and I was using it, but it takes me forever to get through a bronzer. There was a bronzer whenever I started my channel that I had for 6 years and I hadn't even hit pan on it. So bronzer is a thing that's tough for me to get through. So I didn't need it. It was just like, okay, I'm just gonna move on from this. Then I talked about a couple of Phytosurgeon's blushes. Here's the thing. I lost a couple of blushes, and I do think this one blush got lost. I think it's disappeared. I just got rid of Phytosurgeon's Evaporate. That or Exotherm. I think it was Evaporate. And I was doing my declutter and I opened it up and it looked not great. It looked in bad shape. And I know that this formula can crystallize sometimes, but it had like a green hue to the crystallization, and I was like, that looks like mold. I have to get rid of it. I think if I even stirred it up, I would have been uncomfortable using it. So that actually just went away. I would have still had that in my collection if it hadn't turned. That product was gifted to me by a friend and it has already been used. So I just didn't know how old it was. Not to say that my friend passed on an old product to me. A lot of us makeup lovers are very comfortable using old products, and that's totally fine. So it's no one's fault. I just think that it was that one's time to go. But the other one, I don't know what happened to. I don't distinctly remember getting rid of it. I might have decluttered it. I don't know where it is. But there's also some blushes that I had from Finding Ferdinand that I don't know where they went. And they just disappeared. So I think there is just blushes in my room somewhere that I don't have any, I can't account for them. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they went. But speaking of Finding Ferdinand, the Finding Ferdinand and Kackie Summer Abroad blushes were in that video. And most of this year I just wasn't using them. They're really pretty and they were really easy to use. And I think they were great colors. I was using them less. And I think I thought they were more beige than they are. And I had some truly beige taupey colors come into my life that I think work better for my undertones to my skin. I just actually decluttered them at the end of last year. So they were up in my collection up until then, but I hadn't used them in a while. I didn't really use them a lot this past year. And speaking of another product that just got decluttered is Charlotte Tilbury's Spotlight Wand. that became a very useful tool to me, and I really liked it. And even when I just decluttered it, I was like, this has served me so well, and I had used it a lot. Other things came into my life that kind of just like wiped it out of the park, or that I was like, my time with this is certainly done, because I'm so much more excited about these other highlighting products. That wasn't a bad one, but I did just declutter it. I already talked about Chantekai's Zebra. The Surat Souffle eyeshadows, I did really like them, and I just actually decluttered my last one of those in my lip clutter. Honestly, I just kept forgetting to use them, even though they are my favorite kind of thing, like a thing in a single compact. I do think that twisting off the lid and the consistency of them is like maybe the thing that may be reserved from using them. They're also very soft looking on the eyes, and I do feel like I really like a soft matte but a strong shimmer on my eyes, or like a more sparkly shimmer. And while I do think that they were beautiful sparkles, I do like a little bit more than what they were offering. Not a bad product. I did really enjoy my time with them, but it was, I can't say that they were like a favorite that really held my attention. They did for like 6 months though. That MAC Stay Over spray was also something. I didn't declutter that. I actually just used it all up. So that was actually an empty. Still a very good product, but I have an Urban Decay all-nighter that I was gifted, and I'm almost actually done with that now. I might go back to the MAC one because it smells like Fix Plus, and I like the smell of Fix Plus better than I like the smell of All Nighter. The Surat Releve mascara, I actually finished a tube of that and bought a second tube of that, and I was actually just trying to buy it again recently, but it's been out of stock. So I've been using the e.l.f. Lash Extender. You know what I used today? I haven't used in a really long time. The Auric Glow Lust. I use it today. I mixed it in with my foundation, and I love it. Yeah, the Surat Releve mascara was something I was just trying to buy, and I just couldn't. So still love that product. It's still, I think, my favorite mascara. Although the lash extender I've been enjoying. I do think that sometimes it gets into my eyes and irritates it a little bit, but not a ton. But it is weird. Like, I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out if that's what was irritating my eyes or if I was wearing something glittery that got in my eyes the other day. But one of you had said that this mascara bothers your eyes. So I'm trying to figure that out. It is an interesting formula, even though it is a tubing formula. I'm still getting to know it. Anyway, would 100% go back to the Releve mascara. It was in stock. Well, now I won't, because I just bought this mascara and I'm going to use this one up. But you understand what I mean. Okay, and then the last thing that I no longer have is the YSL Candy Glaze. I just decluttered my last Candy Glaze. The thing about the Candy Glaze is I used a whole tube of one up. Then they started irritating my throat, but then I realized that was just because I was using too much of the product. Like, I was really slathering it on and I was swallowing waxy, glossy stuff, and my throat was like, that's kind of gross. And I agree, throat, that is kind of gross. Then I was putting less of it on whenever I was using it, but I think my brain still made the mind-body connection when I would smell the Candy Glaze, because it has a pretty distinct scent, that I was like gonna start choking a little bit after that. And so, yeah, I just started using it less and less. And also the brown color that I had left, the last color, was just warmer than I tend to wear now, and what I like to wear. And it was just like, I think it's just time for me to give up the ghost on the YSL Candy Glaze. That's it. That's that. That's on period. This video would have been helpful to do before I released my favorites of 2024. But yeah, that's why I was like, so contextually at the beginning of that video, the reason I like said I really wanted to hone in my favorites is because that's a lot of favorites to throw at you in one video, an hour and a half. That's not really helping anyone and narrowing it down at all. As I continue forward, I want my favorites to be truly favorites, like the things that I like actually couldn't put down. But I think for me to say things I actually couldn't put down has to be more than a lot of the things that I showed you in last year's favorite video. Like, I have to really like, I don't know. I think that was way too much makeup to be considered favorites. There also were a lot of things that are tried and true and staples in my collection still to this day. I think I learned a lot, because even though that video was an hour and a half, this video I've been filming for like 40 minutes. And that feels like a long retrospective for something that should have been not that long. Not that this video needed to be short. I'm just saying like that I've mentioned way too many products. Okay, I think I've really made my point and I've said it 700 different ways. That's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are new to the channel, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button. What I like to do on my channel is a lot of this, a lot of reflection. Even as a content creator, I want to help myself and help you be more discerning about the makeup that we are purchasing, or like, you know, taking a closer look or closer understanding as to why we feel the way that we do about makeup consumption. And I find that being reflective about how we talked about makeup in the past is very helpful for that. And I also like to talk about new releases, and, you know, I still do reviews and things like that on my channel, but, you know, I want to get really honed in with my spending on makeup because I used to spend too much makeup. So that's the whole point. It's like conscious consumption here. So if you want to be here, I would love for you to be here. Make sure you hit the like button while you're down there. I'm on Patreon and I have channel memberships. I do an additional video over there every month. If you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and check it out. But that's not a better way to support me. It's just a different way to support me. Liking, commenting, and sharing my content is the best way to support me or any other content creator. And if you are a current member or patron, I really appreciate you. In the pinned comment, I will have a link to help people in Gaza. If you have the means to support those people, please do that. And that's going to wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow your hope and you'll find me. And I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth, tits out. I'm rolling on the sea of life. I'm rolling.